Welcome to Gems with Shom, a podcast about digging, records, and other stuff. On today's show, we have House Shoes. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Thanks for having me, bro.
When I think of you, I think of an impeccable ear. You've amplified so much great music over time. I want to tell you how much I appreciate it from afar. And I think there's a lot our audience can kind of learn from you. I think a lot of things we talk about, they'll appreciate. So let's take it back to the beginning. How did you cultivate your ear? How did you cultivate your taste?
Music was always important, even prior to hip hop. I come from a family that loved music. No musicians, but loved music. My mother had records. My father had records. My stepfather had records. My brother appreciated music. Yeah, so music was always a part of thing. I would come home from school. My mom would be cleaning up the house, always playing a record. You know what I mean? Or playing a tape. When my parents separated and I would go see my dad on the weekends, one of the staples was going to the record store. You know what I mean? And I get a tape or a record every weekend. I would save my allowance to buy records, you know. It's very, very important always.
I think that's so interesting the way that people have these early memories with records. What comes to mind when you think of when you were a kid, the first record you had that you kind of treasured?
I mean, my first record was Three Little Pigs,
Okay.
the
Okay.
Disneyland record. I was big on those, you know, the little booklets, the turn the page books. I had a little Fisher Price turntable. Um, what's the earliest that stood out though? Early childhood memories are kind of, you know, I used to smoke a lot of weed, so it can be foggy at times. Let me see. I would also like buy records for gifts for my mother or my stepfather or my father, you know what I mean? Um, record, like I remember always just staring at, I'd go over to my dad's house and I would just stare at the cover for Steely Dan, the Royal Scam, the dude laying on the park bench and the buildings with like the serpents
Yeah.
on top of them. You know what I mean?
That's a hot one too. It's a great record.
Absolutely.
You know, my first record, it's oddly enough, I consider mine as my elder brother's. I was 6 and it was The Iceberg by Ice-T.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I remember the day I bought that tape and went back to the crib and listened to it. What an epic intro.
well, as a kid, a 6-year-old probably shouldn't be listening to that. It scared the shit out of me. I mean, what he
Right.
was talking about, the cover itself, I mean, he
Right.
painted a picture. It was crazy, but I couldn't
Yeah.
stop listening to it.
Right. Absolutely.
So you're a young record fan, you're surrounded by music. How did things go from there?
Fifth grade was pivotal. I grew up in Lathrop Village, which is a small part of Southfield, which borders Detroit on the north side. And it's pretty lily white, you know what I mean, at that point in time. This is like 84, 85. And this cat, Ron Garrison, moved in to the city and started going to school with us. And he was from New York. And his uncle was Father MC.
Oh,
And he,
crazy.
yeah, super crazy. And he just had all the tapes. And that was my introduction. You know, that was Houdini, Run DMC, Fat Boys, like the compilations with like UTFO and Roxanne Shante and just all that early East Coast shit. Not super early, but like the second movement. And I was enamored. And it was tunnel vision after that. It was all I wanted. I didn't pay attention to anything else. I didn't care about pop music. I didn't care about rock music. My brother had all that on deck. You know what I mean? And I wasn't concerned with it. I just wanted to have all the new rap shit. I had a calendar. I had a notebook with like dates. You would go to Music Land and they would have the calendar on the wall with the new releases and I would have notes and I would be ready to go cop that shit as soon as it came out.
All right. So when did you start DJing for other people?
The first time I ever DJ'd was the last day of school uh, in sixth grade. And it wasn't like proper DJing. It was like, a lot of us had those units. It was like a dual cassette, CD player, turntable on top. You could switch the lines back and forth. And I had all my tapes and CDs and a few records, and I would just, play one, then play another one. It definitely wasn't a heavily attended party. I think it was maybe like me and three of the homies, you know? Um, I didn't start proper DJing until I went to Eastern Michigan University. I got kicked out. And I spent all the remaining money in the books and tuition account on records, about $4,000 in the course of maybe 2 months. Couple right time, right place scenarios where I was be in the record store and somebody would just dump a gang of crates, and I would leave with a couple of them. Couple of the homies let me borrow turntables. One of the homies let me borrow a mixer, and I would just like initially just be in my bedroom putting acapellas over instrumentals or just blending instrumentals. You know what I mean? Always the most important thing to me was the beats. The beats were the primary. You know what I mean? If you could rap on them really good, that was just bonus. That was extra credit. Then I got hired at St. Andrews Hall in April of '94. I would go down to St. Andrews Hall when I was going to Eastern. A couple homies would drive all the way up to Ypsilanti from Detroit. It's like 45 minutes away. Take me to St. Andrews. Take me to the Mecca. Take me to Stanley's Rhythm Kitchen. And that was my personal introduction to the scene. And when I got kicked out of school and I went back to Detroit, I would just hit the record stores every week, try to get all the new heat. And I would go to Drew's on Friday night and I would just have a little stack of records. And I would just see if they would give me like the last 10, 15 minutes of the night. And they did, which is actually really, really crazy because who wants to give up the end of the night to some little white kid with a stack of records? You know what I mean? But I was cooking a little bit and built a relationship, started meeting people in the scene. And I was down there in April on a Friday night, and one of the DJs on the hip hop floor got in a fight with one of the DJs in the basement, and he got fired. And shout out to my homie Lito. He pulled me in the office, and St. Andrews Hall was my platform for like the next 10 years. Very, very grateful for that,
So you mentioned your stack of records that got you started. Now you're playing full time at St. Andrews Hall. Tell me about DATs and tapes.
That was a little later. That was like 94, 95, 96. I had got hired at Street Corner Music, a record store just outside of Detroit, just a couple of weeks before I got hired at St. Andrews. And I met JD in the fall of 94, and he started feeding me tapes. He would give me batches. He'd give me little 10, 20-minute Ampex Studio Master tapes. And I had to play that shit. I had the treats, you know what I mean? So it started off with me bringing a dual cassette down to the club on Friday nights, playing we call them treats, playing the treats. And then eventually I bought a portable DAT player so I could we could really slap, you know what I mean? Like he could bring me a DAT a few hours after they record a song and I could play it the day it got recorded.
I mean, this is your life. That's your memory. To our listeners, we're talking about magic. This is a really important time that you're in the middle of. Tell us what it was like.
Oh, it was electricity. You know what I mean? I would literally wake up Saturday morning and be like, I got 6 days. Even 7, even like Fridays, a lot of record stores got new releases on Fridays. They get batches on Fridays. So I would hit the shops on Friday. I just wanted to have the new shit. Even when I was a kid in like middle school, high school, I wanted to have the shit first and just put the homies up on it. Let the homies borrow it, dub it. What you got? Let me dub that. You know what I mean? but very, very high standards. I've never really played a record that I don't like. Music is exciting to me, and I've never diluted that by just giving a homie, his 5 minutes of fame and sacrificing the entire party so he can get bragging rights that Shoes played his record. Now, if Shoes plays your record, it means something. Personal relationships have nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking about an era where I'm breaking Black Moon, I'm breaking Mobb Deep, I'm breaking Pete Rock and CL Smooth, New Tribe records. Like, your record has to stand next to that. And I wouldn't change a thing. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're going to tap out or you're going to make a better record.
I think it's interesting you say that. I don't know if everyone would do that today or even back then. Most people didn't do that.
Right.
You really focused on what you thought was good. Maybe it wasn't always easy, but I think that's really commendable.
Standards matter. And yeah, man, stick to the script. Absolutely. Like, people will come to the club. I had this, my name, they call me House Shoes. I didn't name myself House Shoes. My mother got me a pair of house shoes before I went to Eastern, and they were super comfortable, and I wore them all the time till I burnt them out, and then I got another pair. They're nice house shoes. They're like $65 house shoes, black leather, comfortable as fuck. And I would bring them down to St. Andrews in like an army tackle case, a green tackle case. And right before it was time for me to DJ, I would go and sit on the edge of the stage like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I would take my shoes off and people would be like, oh shit, like Shoes is about to DJ. You know what I mean? Like, those standards matter because people know they're about to hear some shit. You know what I'm saying?
How did things go from there?
So my whole St. Andrews run was like 94 to 2004. Incredible era. Definitely you saw the pivot, later mid to late 90s where the Jiggy era, where you saw the diversion between art and commerce. And I spoke to that too. When records started getting whack, I would play them on a Friday and smash them into pieces on the stage and then play some heat after that. But after St. Andrews, it was a great time, but the money wasn't right. You know what I mean? I'm playing for, 400 or 500 people on a Friday night. When I got hired there, I was making $80 a night. And when I stopped working there 10 years later, I was maybe making $200 a night. And that bar was definitely doing probably late 5 figures, $10,000. It's before you learn about bar splits and the economy of nightlife and all that. So I quit St. Andrews and I went and I found this little shitty bar on 8 Mile right across the street from a doctor's office that my mother used to work at. Actually was still working at the time. And I started Shoes House. It was the most magical shit. Like, the Buddha Lounge was a little tiki bar. You couldn't fit 100 people in there legally. But I mean, there's definitely some nights where we had double that. And it was just, it was us, it was ours. It's different when you're in a space that you're working for them and you're making them all the money. And it's not even about the money. It's just about community and controlling our environment. You know what I'm saying? We had crazy nights up there. And then that dude got funny because there was nobody going to the Buddha Lounge when I started doing it. And then, my night turned into 2 nights a week. And then other people started coming in and getting other nights. And it definitely increased the population at the bar. But the owner tried to get greedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, bro, you're fucking finished. Like, we're out of here. And we pivoted to this other spot called Northern Lights. Kept it going for the last like year and a half before I moved to LA. It's an incredible
Okay.
time.
You describe the DJ scene, which you're at the center of. You're breaking great music. JD was blowing up. Slum Village was blowing up. I mean, that's relative. In the world, they're blowing up.
Well,
What
they're
was
not
feeling in
blowing up.
Detroit?
They're not blowing up in the city.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. We were misfits. We were weirdos. You know what I mean? Detroit wasn't a hip hop city. Detroit was regular as fuck. Detroit was like hood shit, gangster shit. No shots. Like that shit is cool too, but not really a balance. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I mean, we were all anonymous. JD was an anonymous figure in Detroit. He could go to the mall, ain't nobody asking him for an autograph, you know? So I just continued to use my platform to play that shit as Detroit artists, got their game together and got their bread up and started, recording in proper studios and releasing properly recorded pieces of vinyl. If it was good enough, I would play it. And I had a college radio show on WHFR. We would play a lot of local hip hop demos on there, whether we were making clean edits on ancient computers in 1996, 97. And just, I always advocated. I advocated for the city and I advocated for the art form. But like when it comes to Detroit, yeah, it was I call the hip hop community in the mid 90s, we were like a micro community. I mean, it was literally like maybe a couple hundred people.
It's interesting because from the outside, I mean, I grew up in Toronto, Canada. JD and Slum Village had a huge fan base.
Right.
And yeah, you may have had a part in that as well. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Shout to RC, shout to Attic, shout to Moss, shout to Jake One. They would all link up and they would come down to Detroit to go digging. They would sleep on my living room floor. You know what I mean? And I played Slum Village for them for the first time. And I dubbed it for them and gave it legs, once again, advocating, same shit. But yeah, Toronto was definitely the first market to really catch on and show support and appreciation.
Yeah. It's your life. To others, it's legendary. I mean, those tapes that you shared, I mean, I had those tapes. Many people had those tapes.
Right.
And it felt like you were onto a secret because we didn't know what song was called what. So you're half the time you're just singing the song to someone else. And there was a lot of, I mean, you could call them rumors or just say hype around Dilla at that time.
Right.
He's working with Tribe. He's working with D'Angelo. And we'd hear songs coming from those tapes that you shared. So I'll say thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember he gave me a DAT with a bunch of remixes on it. And he told me they were all approved by the labels and I'd be working in the record store. And these records would gradually start coming in, like the D'Angelo 12-inch would come in and his remix ain't on it. And the Das Effects 12-inch comes in and his remix ain't on it. And the Master Ace 12-inch comes in and I got to call him every time. Like, bro, your shit ain't on here. Artifacts 12-inch comes in. Like, bro, they got a Showbiz remix on here. Your shit ain't on here. And I came into a little bit of money and I was like, let's just bootleg this shit, man. Let's bootleg it. And that was the first record that I ever put out was JD Unreleased. That was in 1996. And that's actually JD's first record, which is crazy. And I never even paid attention to that like that. It wasn't for clout. It was a homie who was dope and they were sleeping on him. They were sleeping on him locally. They were sleeping on him nationally. They were sleeping on him in the infrastructure of the entertainment industry. And I put the bread up and created that document. Once again, I'm grateful, man.
Well, you're certainly a champion of great music. You're a tastemaker. Sometimes these words are thrown around. You're certainly that. I think you've amplified a lot of music that was lesser known to be really, really popular in the world.
Absolutely. Efforts equal results. Consistency is key.
So you're in this era where the Detroit scene is kind of getting a lot of buzz, definitely critical acclaim.
Right.
How did things evolve over time?
I mean, Detroit is a very kind of insulated space. I never traveled outside of the city. We weren't really too concerned with that. And plus, I've never been a businessman. I've never been a good businessman. I just, I'm just a vessel for art. And yeah, so St. Andrews, Buddha Lounge, uh, Northern Lights, Dilla dies. You know what I mean? Dilla died, Proof died, LA. And yeah, when Dilla died, I was like, I'm moving. I'm moving to LA. Proof wasn't happy with that because Proof was probably the only other person than myself that had that responsibility built in. Like it was a responsibility to provide for our community. No one else really cared enough to put the community in front of themselves. You know what I mean? So when I made the decision to leave, Proof wasn't feeling that shit at all. Like we got into it a few times. He's like, "You can't leave, bro. I'm leaving." He was building a house in Arizona. He was going to move out there with his family. And he was like, "Shoes, if you leave, it's over with." But, you know, once again, me always putting the city in front of myself, I just felt like it was time for me to focus on me. Never mind that I just moved out to LA and did the same shit for 20 years. You know what I mean? But yeah, moved to LA, and you know, I told you I never really traveled outside of the city. I moved to LA. I did a gig in Mexico City a couple months ago, and that was the 48th country that I've DJed in.
You took some, let's say, difficult times. I mean, first, I'm sorry for all that happened, and you've taken it to a new phase. I mean, that's not easy to do.
Yeah, especially the fact that I don't, you know, I'm not a jukebox. I play the shit that I revere. I play records that people are probably not that familiar with. So it adds even that much more value to it. Like 48 countries playing what the fuck I want to play. You know what I mean? And being booked in proper spaces to allow that for the consumers and the customers and the patrons of these establishments and these markets.
I think when you play stuff that people don't know, I mean, this has happened when I've listened to you play. I mean, I want to find out what it is. And it's kind of like putting me on to shit.
Absolutely.
And that's the that's the best part of listening to a DJ you like, right? That's the
Right.
goal.
For people like us, yeah. I saw a meme a few weeks ago and it was hilarious. It's a picture of a DJ booth and there's a couple girls in the front of the DJ booth that are like screw face. And it's like the face they make when you play their favorite song 2 months before it's their favorite song. You
Uh,
know what I mean?
yeah.
So accurate.
Well, I think over time you've won in your own way. I'm sure there's all kinds of ups and downs in this story that you outline. And I'm sure leaving Detroit wasn't easy, but I think there's an important place for someone in your role.
Word up. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the platform that I've been allowed to have and that I also have put consistent effort into building. It's a rare space to be able to live in. You know what I mean?
You mentioned all the records you acquired over time around Detroit, other places. You're a beat digger. You play hip hop. I
Yeah.
mean, you unearthed some great stuff. Tell me about your experience digging in the Midwest area.
Oh, super spoiled. Records were always so cheap and still are in Detroit. So cheap. Like the discogs prices don't run the city like they do everywhere else. Um, dollar records galore to this day. You know what I mean? And like playable dollar records, not destroyed. There might be a mark on it, but you know, sometimes you go to record stores where there's records that are like $10, $20 and they're destroyed, barely even playable. So condition is a very important factor in Detroit. Quality is a very important factor. And I feel like that kind of resounded with me as well, just as far as taste and quality goes. But yeah, it's so many great record shops. Record Time, Street Corner, Buy Right, uh, Chantinique's, uh, Melodies and Memories. What was the other spot? Oh, it was another spot on Harper. I can't remember the name of it. I worked there also. But yeah, and just I worked in like 5 or 6 different record stores in Detroit. So just that side of it too. You could hear me play a record on Friday and you could come and see me at the shop on Saturday and I could sell it to you. So I could benefit great artists on the commerce side and not be a slave to the commerce and the capitalism aspect. You know what I mean? Come and
I
get
hear
that
you.
heat.
I think above all, I mean, throughout this entire discussion, you've really focused on your taste and creativity, sometimes maybe at the expense of commerce.
Oh, 100%. No, people don't understand the amount of sacrifice that goes into keeping your soul and maintaining your integrity. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm 50 years old in a 1-bedroom apartment. Let's keep it 100. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't change a thing, man. I mean, I'm willing to be the example. I don't feel like, keep it real is such a washed out phrase. But I don't know if anybody's kept it a buck like I have. And I like to be that example and tell people that they can stand on their morals and stand on their integrity and they don't need to pivot and diminish their light in a world full of clout chasing.
You're certainly standing by it. And people who listen to this podcast have probably listened to interviews with Dilla.
Right.
And it seems like you guys have the exact same language. I mean, that's what he says in every interview. And it's not coming from nowhere. It's like this was the mentality around you.
That's how you create fantastic shit. You're creating what you want to create. You're not creating what you think someone else wants to hear. I mean, I'm a producer also. I mean, I haven't made a beat in 17 years, but I did pick up my 3000 last week. I've been itching. And I even did a post about it. Like, yo, I'm gonna get back on the beats, and all these people popping up in the fucking comments like, send me a beat. Like, I'm not making beats for you, bro. I only made 2 beats out of all the beats I ever made in my life. I made 2 beats for anybody aside from myself. And at the same time, I still made those beats for myself. And that's when Jay was working on the MCA album back in the day. He told me to come through with a tape. So I filled up this Maxell 60-minute tape with all my best shit. And then the last beat, I made a beat specifically for him. And that ended up being the beat that he picked for the introduction. You know what I mean?
So this MCA album, right? It's
Yeah.
a longtime legend. Didn't come out at the time.
Right.
And you were directly involved. What happened with that? I assume it came out in some form. What was it called when it came out?
The Diary. It eventually came out maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
Shout out to Egon. He made it happen. I mean, just label politics, and Jay just being Jay. Jay's like, I got a label deal. I'm going to have everybody else, man. I'm going to have all my favorite influences and contemporaries make the beats, and I'm just going to be the rapper on it. And the label is like, fuck that. And then, once again, as it always happened, labels were constant in a state of, dissolution. Every year or two, the axe would fall, labels would be absorbed into other labels, and MCA got absorbed into another label, and the handful of priorities kept their contracts, and everyone else just got dropped.
What you describe is so crazy. As a fan, you don't always understand why things happen that way, but label politics, definitely influenced this legendary kind of myth of a record.
Yeah, the music industry it's the music business. It's never been about the music. It's about exploitation and where they're going to get the most money. And look at it today. They've removed, it's the only industry that's completely devalued their product. somehow they're making more money than they ever made before, and the artists are not. It's very interesting. I mean, the music industry is one of the only industries I've also seen. It's such a fail up industry. You have these people that have never done any hands-on work, and they just continue to fail up and up and up. And you have people running these companies that don't know shit about music.
I mean, they certainly don't make the music better. I think it has more to do with understanding industry politics, things like that. Who looks cool, things like that.
Yeah. Relationships.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I'm
All
good.
right. You have deep knowledge of music. I'm going to name some records and tell me what comes up for you. All right.
Right.
Tarika Blue, Dream Flower.
Oh, well, I mean, I gave that record to JD. I was working a street corner and I saw this record. It was a Japanese repress of the Tarika Blue album, Chayarosky Records. And they had a listening station in the back of the store, and I'd go through it. And I'm like, yeah, this is dope. Like, Jay would fuck with this. Took it over to Jay. And I didn't know until after the funeral, because shout to DJ Dummy. DJ Dummy did one of the most incredible tributes. They did there was a double CD mixtape that everybody at the funeral got. And it was a lot of observations and stories being told by all the people that he worked with. And Erica was on there talking about how when she was in the basement with Jay, working on Mama's Gun, and he was like, go pick a record. And she's going through records, and she actually pulled the Tarika Blue record out of his crates, put it on the turntable, found the bass line and everything. And the rest is history.
I mean, that's curation for real. That's not some like bullshit curator shit. I mean, you found a legendary Grail record and it turned into an all-time great song. One of my personal favorites.
Well, I mean, that's not just me. That's the universe too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't take all the credit for that.
Yeah. It's something mystical because I mean that song is magic. It's been an all-time favorite of mine.
Absolutely.
And people who listen to this podcast are all record nerds. Tarika Blues comes up all the time.
Right.
And it's a hell of a record. And if anyone ever finds that record, check out the song Jimmy. Also pretty hot.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Next record. Gangstar, Hard to Earn album, Speak Your Clout.
St. Andrew's Standard on a Friday night. I mean, the first time I went to Street Corner Music was to buy the Hard to Earn album. April 1994. And I didn't even think that they would have the LP, so I asked them for the CD, and they was like, nah, we're sold out of the CD, but we got one copy of the import vinyl. And I was looking around like, this is a dope spot. You guys need any help? You know, I'm very well versed in this hip hop shit. And they're like, well, we don't have a budget to pay another employee, but we could pay you in credit, store credit. And I was like, so that means that I get paid in records? Like, when do I started a few days later. And then maybe 6 to 9 months later, they saw the draw that I had in the shop and they saw my passion and they gave me the opportunity to be the hip hop buyer. Wow. And that's when I finally started my record label, I couldn't come up with a name for it. And then it struck me like Street Corner Music was the first place that trusted me with their money. You know what I mean? To curate the ears of the population that came through that store. So I hit up the owner and I was like, told him about it. He was like, run with it. Go for it. Shout out to Chris. But yeah, I mean, Hard to Earn took me to Street Corner. I met JD at Street Corner. Very pivotal, very, very personal. Rest in peace, Guru. You know what I mean? Honored to have been able to meet him. I met him one time.
You met Guru? Wow. I don't know why that surprises me, but I'm just saying, I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, I met him one time at uh, Club 246 on Madison. Yeah, he was fucking wasted. He could drink, man. He could drink. But yeah, that's the legend, man. Shout out to Guru Keith E.
He's a legend. He's one of my personal favorites. DJ Premier is obviously world famous, owned an era, but I like them as a group. I think they
Absolutely,
had the chemistry.
absolutely. What a dynamic duo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you think about Guru's life, I mean, first of all, it's a shame what happened.
Yeah.
100 years from now, when everyone's gone, his life is like a movie. He had the looks of a model, perfect voice, and
Right.
then all the other phases with Jazzmatazz and the kind of whole Europe time.
Yep.
It's an epic film.
Absolutely.
With that said, I mean, there's a downside to this story as well, but it's stranger than fiction.
Right.
Steve Davis, all because she's gone.
What a record. What a record. I got that record from JD. Yeah. Jay would give me a crate once in a while. I'd be like, man, here, just take these. Put some shit in there. And what a fucking epic song. You know what I mean? Um, Once again, and circle back to Gangstar. The Planet is, if not my favorite Gangstar song, top 3 or 4. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy how all that's interconnected.
It is crazy. I mean,
No,
it's such a great song. It's such an emotional song. And then the work that Primo did on that is insane.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. The Planet. Yeah, I got the intro too, the Taj Mahal joint.
Okay. All right. Now we're talking digging for real. I don't have that. So there you go. Let's go international. Arthur Verocai.
Oh yeah. Uh Inarguably perfect album. You know what I mean? Some things are up for discussion. I stopped arguing about music maybe 10 years ago. I stopped trying to convince people that Dilla was the best. I just had an epiphany that you're not arguing about the music. You're arguing about emotions, opinions, about how, you know what I mean? And it's just a waste of breath to me. But that is a perfect fucking album. And once again, a devastating tale of the music industry. You know, it wasn't received when it came out, and the record label literally ground all of the remaining copies of that record up to like repress the more popular releases on the label. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, an
Tell me,
original, like if you find like an original sealed mint copy of self-titled Arthur Verkai, you're talking about like $10,000.
it's an unbelievable record to me. And like you said, I mean, the strings, everything about it, the
Yeah.
composition. I've always wondered, I figure maybe you'll know, maybe you won't. Who was the first person to sample that record? To my knowledge, I mean, I'm not sure. I've heard on Special Herbs, MF Doom, there's a song called Orris Root Powder. I mean, no one
Yep.
remembers the names of those songs. That was the first time I heard it. And I swear in the recess of my mind, whether I don't know how I heard it, whether it's on a radio show, I heard MF Grimm rapping on this beat that just sounded so insane.
Right.
And then when I heard the Verocai, I was like, oh, that's the break.
Right.
But I'm not sure.
I mean, I'd say it's between that and Ninth for the Little Brother joint. It's maybe the same era. The Doom might have preceded it by a little bit. But yeah, I'd say it's definitely between those two. And then that the Little Brother definitely pulled the sheet, pulled the cover back. Like that exposed it. And it seems like it really skyrocketed in the desire to own it and just the legend of it and its perception to the public.
All right. All right. I feel like I can do this all day. I'll bring up another song. Anthony Williams, Album Spring, Love Song.
That one you got me on.
Okay. I'll just jog your memory.
A Blue Note?
You have an album. Yeah, it's on Blue Note. You have
Yeah.
an album
Yeah,
where you
I jacked the cover.
borrowed the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, you borrowed the cover work.
Yeah. Yeah. So the gift series, I started Street Corner Music with a series of originally just free downloadable uh batches of beats that I picked all the beats from just some of the homies that I felt needed to have some light shined on them. And then I moved into a situation with Fat Beats where they were released in vinyl, and I wanted there to be a theme between for all the visuals. And of course Blue Note visually is, that's the benchmark for graphic design in all of music, in my opinion. Um, and I always hated math, but math was such a critical element in those covers because I wanted it to be a perfect swap. I had, House Shoes and Street Corner Music presents the gift and whoever the artist was. So it was a number of characters that had to be swapped out to make it look as exactly similar as possible. You know what I mean?
I think you made a good choice. I think record nerds are oftentimes into design. I don't know. I think it's just part of it. I certainly am. And the song off that I personally love is called Love Song. It was redone many times. There's a Woody Shaw version. It's great.
Or presentation, visual presentation is important because if a record looks shitty, you probably think it sounds shitty. You know what I mean? If it looks gorgeous, you think it probably does sound gorgeous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's part of that atmosphere of the record for sure.
Right.
All right, let's go back to a group you mentioned earlier, Mobb Deep, the infamous album.
Best album ever made on God's green earth. Any genre. That record makes me feel exactly the same way 30 years later that I felt the first time I listened to it. It's just dangerous. You know what I mean? Somber. Havoc is one of the masters of the genre who definitely does not get mentioned like he should. His style, his production style in that era was so incredible. Like so simple on one hand, but so absolutely incredibly mind-blowing at the same time. Shout to Q-Tip for lending his efforts to it on some of the mixes and just overlooking the album. Man, the infamous. I think I probably own like 7 copies of that record.
It's an all-timer. It's one of the greatest records I ever heard. I'm glad to hear your take on it. Quelle Chris and Chris Keys' sudden death.
Oh, Quelle is one of the best rappers in the world, one of the best artists in the world. Sudden death was kind of a bummer because if that would have been a period where he could have been able to really get out and perform that song in front of the public, COVID hit and everything shut down, so there was really no way to promote that album. I put out Quelle's first record back, God, like 16 years ago. Yeah, he's such an inspiration. Once again, just sticking to it. You know what I mean? Sticking to the script, not letting any co-writers in, not letting your mission be changed, just knowing what you have to do and doing it. And the older I've gotten, the things that really gain my attention and garner my attention are vulnerability and urgency. And he has so much to offer in those spaces. And I got a show with him if you live in LA, September 21st. Cop them tickets. I ain't put you on the guest list.
I think Quelle Chris is another excellent example of how you're finding talent, and it's not all the same. It's all kind of within an orbit, right?
Right.
Uh,
Absolutely.
he's an original artist, really original.
100%. I'm big on singularities. You know, I put out 82 records on Street Corner Music, and if I can reverse engineer your sound 4 bars in, I'm not interested. You know, I need creativity that perks my ears up. It's like, yo, what the fuck is that? What is that? It's exciting to hear something you're not familiar with. It could even be as simple as like a drum pattern that you've never heard before programmed. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, Quelle is. I'm so grateful, man. Like I always wanted to put out the Shotgun Sleek Rifle album, but he was under contract to Mello for a long time, and then when the contract expired on, because Mello was supposed to put that out, but he never did. And literally the day that that contract expired on Shotgun Sleek Rifle, I sent it away from manufacturing. You know what I mean? And when he was, and I forget that I'm on the record. You know what I mean? Like, I sent him a batch of beats back in the day, and he sends me back a song with fucking Rock Marcy. And
Crazy.
bah, you know what I mean?
Well, it's another example of how you kind of maintaining your sound with beats, with putting people on, it matters over time.
It does. And there's not really, I'm not tripping that there ain't much to physically show for it, because, you know, doing good things, you don't do them for a reward. You know what I mean? You just do them. I just do it because I can. I provide because I can. That's why I just started this monthly again. It was kind of like a litmus test to see if I still want to provide, you know?
Tell our audience about the monthly.
Well, I've had a gig that I've done for years called Shoes House. And at any given venue, you know, you take the stage and you make it look like, you know, you put a couch on the stage, you put a couple lamps, you put a coffee table, you make, you know, have some of the homies just sit there and chill and bring in a more kind of domestic, casual vibe. The first one I did in New York was maybe 16 years ago, 17 years ago. Danny Brown's first New York appearance. Jean Grey, Sky Zoo, Tanya Morgan. I forget who else. But yeah, this is kind of the new iteration of it. It's called House Shoes and Friends. It's kind of like a private. It's not like it's not at a club. It's like a private studio space in downtown Los Angeles. We did the first one a couple weeks ago. Had the homies, the Tunnel Rats. It's like an OG LA hip hop crew. My homie Peace produced their new album called Legacy, and it was a great time. And I'm just trying to figure out the schedule for the rest of the year. But the next one is September 21st, and I got Quelle, flying out Quelle, and I got the homie Pistol McFly, who's been one of my under the radar cats for like the last 5 years. He's one of my favorites in LA. It's got a really good album that Exile put out on Dirty Science called Road Trip that I'd highly recommend, because the majority of people have never heard of it, unfortunately. So much music that we'll never be aware of, just because that's just how it is. There's some kid in his fucking bedroom that's better than everybody, and he doesn't even care about making a record.
I mean, you mentioned things I've never heard of, and now I'm going to look them up. That's
Yeah.
that's a good part about this.
Right.
There's always more out there. But yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's kind of, I would imagine, frustrating because they're artists, they're people. I bet they would want more out of the music they put out.
Yeah, I mean, like I had a label for 10 years and I kept the ceiling really low. Like, my goal, you got to protect your heart. You know what I mean? So my goal was just existence, just putting it on, vinyl and letting it go live its fucking life. You know what I mean? And I'm very well invested in the thought that, people aren't going to realize what street corner music was in my lifetime. And I'm not tripping. You know what I mean? I'm not
Is
tripping.
it so you pressed vinyl? Is it available digital?
Street corner
Yeah.
catalog? It's all on Bandcamp. I took the whole catalog off of Spotify. It still exists on Apple Music and Tidal and other spaces, but I'm probably going to pull that shit too. Because it's not about convenience. We live in an era of passive support, and people think that their little $10, $12 a month is all they need to pay to be in the club. And I don't like that shit. And everyone talks shit about Spotify like it's the devil, but then they post their link to their new song on Spotify. So I was like, let me be the example.
You
And there was a
certainly live
couple.
by your ethics, and I mean, in this world, it's rare as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be the example. I gotta, talk the talk. I used to be on Facebook, 15 years ago, saying fuck Facebook, and then one day I was like, delete the account, and then I would be on Twitter talking about fuck Twitter, delete the account, and then I'm saying fuck Spotify when my whole catalog's on there. Nah, get that shit out of here. And a couple of the artists on the label weren't too happy about it. They weren't tripping, but they were like, I was like, nah, man, fuck that shit. You're only worth what we dictate the value. And that little hay penny, them little hay pennies ain't enough. Ownership matters.
Absolutely. So I'll name a few more records and tell me what comes up for you. Mad Villainy.
Oh, amazing. I wasn't really fucking with Doom before that. Just, I'm not going to front. I'm not really a big fan of Doom's beats, Like the programming is kind of funny to me. He's got some great joints. I'm not saying I don't fuck with all of it, but Mad Villainy, in my opinion, is one of the most listenable and re-listenable. Like the replay value is fantastic. It's like a movie. It's seamless. And once again, like fucking Madlib's in Brazil with an SP chopping up cassettes. Like it's against all odds type shit. You know what I mean? But that's definitely one of the most important albums in the genre to me for a multitude of reasons.
It seems like records like Mad Villainy are more popular now than they were many, many years ago.
Well, unfortunately, and fortunately at the same time, there's no better way to advertise your music than dying. It's devastating. I remember I was working at Street Corner Music. The first time I saw it was when Grover Washington Jr. died. And the next day, everybody that came in was wanted to buy Grover Washington Jr. Phyllis Hyman died. Everybody wants to buy Phyllis Hyman. You know what I mean? Dilla died. All of a sudden, there's Dilla fans everywhere.
He's more popular than ever. Doom's
Oh
more
my
popular
God.
than ever.
Absolutely. So, there's sadness intertwined with that, but at the end of the day, more ears are more ears. And all of us just want our music to reach as many people as possible.
I mean, I can imagine it's not normal for you, but I'm sorry, man. I feel like it must be weird for you because he's your actual friend. Yeah, I just want to be sensitive to that.
Yeah, I mean, you got the weirdos that say donuts is the best. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. That's like the calling card for like a newbie JD fan. Nobody was fucking with this shit, man. Nobody was. And then he died and everybody was. And they had their t-shirts and all this corny shit. Like, just stop lying. Just be transparent. Like, oh no, I just found out about him. It's not hard to act like that. This whole kind of new lineage of Dilla fans, everyone knows everything or acts like they know everything. And it's kind of gross. But
Yeah.
Donuts ain't it. Donuts ain't it. When I heard Donuts, I didn't like it at all. I was like, this shit sounds like such a Mad Lib tape. I've never heard him so influenced by a singular person. I had a few joints. It was like 4 or 5 joints on there that I fuck with. Like, these are crazy. But just overall, it was like, Like, if you tell me that Donuts is better than Welcome to Detroit, like, go climb something really tall and see if you can fly.
I probably like Donuts more than you, but yeah, Welcome to Detroit. That's the main album that's the most cohesive. I like Rough Draft a lot too.
Rough Draft is great, and Rough Draft is just such a fuck you. It's so crazy. Like, I love that. Like, you know, he finally got a major label deal, and then that shit all fell apart, and he just went all the way back and just dirty and kind of counterculture, anti-industry as possible.
That's my favorite, but maybe because it's shorter. I don't know, right? But that's just my personal favorite. Yeah. Spacek Eve, JD remix featuring
Amazing.
Frank and Tank.
Amazing. The way he could own someone else's record, you know? The way he could just take your vocals and just build some, you know, the story about Fantastic Volume 1, like they recorded the majority of that record over a metronome. Like they recorded the album basically a cappella. And then Jay built all those beats around those vocals.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
and you're blowing my mind.
Fucking unbelievable, bro. But I remember the first time he played me the SpaceX remix, and shout to SpaceX, good ass dude. But like it was such a foreign sound to me. Like I'd be remiss if I wasn't honest in saying that like we was laughing about that shit. Like what he played me the album. He might have just played me the vocals by themselves, and just hearing them in that space, it was just kind of odd. It just sounded very odd to me. And then he was like, "Watch this," and he pressed play on the remix, and that might have been the first time that I told him to fuck off. It's like, man, like fuck off, bro. Like, come on, homie. Yeah, unbelievable. One of the greatest remixes. Like one of the greatest remixes, and he's got so many.
I'll ask about one more. Fat Cat, Don't Nobody Care About Us.
Second record I ever put out. Dedication to the Suckers 12-inch. Don't Nobody Care About Us was like a rallying cry for the scene and just anybody that heard it. I know so many people to this day that tell me that that's their favorite Dilla beat.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it doesn't sound like a Dilla beat. Like the energy's there, but just structurally, sonically, it doesn't sound like a Dilla beat. Yeah. I remember Fat Cat came into the record store one day. I was working at Melodies and Memories, and he had a tape. He's like, I gotta play this shit. And he played me Dedication to the Suckers and Microphone Master were on the tape. And I was like, bro, we're pressing this. Like, I'll figure it out. I don't have the bread. I'll find somebody with the bread. And then when he gave me the final DAT tape with the masters, Don't Nobody Care About Us was on there. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, we're about to kill these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? This is in an era where you could sell, you know, if you had a top tier 12-inch single, you could sell 10 to 15 to 20,000 copies of it. So when I went to Fat Beats with it, shout to Amir, it's my dude. I was like, y'all need to take 10,000 copies of this, bro, because we pressed it. We were going to press it. We needed to get numbers first. We were going to press it in-house and then sell them direct. And the owner of Fat Beats wouldn't give the green light. They would only take 6,000. So I was like, man, you need to take 10. He's like, bro, I'm not getting the green light. We can only take 6. And 6,000 records sold out in 30 minutes.
I'm glad to hear that massively underground record. I mean, some good came out of it because it's
it was good, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Because if it was 10,000 records would have sold out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it was like, this is an era where there's new hot shit coming out every week. And I had an investor. So, you know, you got to repress. It took like a month and a half to get the repress, and the record was basically never out. It disappeared 30 minutes after it came out. So the momentum was gone. You know what I mean? But I'd say we probably topped off at maybe double that, maybe like 12,000 copies inevitably over the years. We sold over 10,000 copies of it. So understand, it's not, if you go to Discogs right now, you could probably find a copy for $10.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You mentioned a name, Amir from Fat Beats. Is this
Yeah,
the same person from the mixtapes Khan and Amir?
absolutely. That's my
Okay.
dude, Amir,
All right.
who,
You just blew
who
my mind again.
who was doing all the Strata reissues, and I linked him up with the Strata people because Strata's a Detroit label, and then he did all the reissues of Strata Records.
We've been in touch, and you just made a lot of things make sense for me.
Yep,
That's wild.
yep.
What are people sleeping on today?
Oh man, Quelle Chris. They're sleeping on Quelle Chris. They're sleeping on Pistol McFly. They're sleeping on Tree in Chicago. They're sleeping on Lord Juco in Toronto. Danielson, Mock Hami, Estee Knack, and they all have spaces in the with the heads. You know what I mean? Who else? Let me see. I always kind of draw a blank when I get put on the spot. Like,
It's
what
okay.
you listen
It's okay.
to?
I'll say Tree is the shit. That's just my comment.
Tree's fantastic. I just copped 2 copies of his shit, and if he would probably have given them to me. I demanded that I pay for them. Like, I'm paying for this shit. Like, I don't want to hear an argument. Bruiser Wolf is fucking amazing. Bruiser Wolf is fucking amazing. Possibly one of the most clever rappers I've ever heard in my life. He's a member of Danny Brown's Bruiser Brigade. He just dropped his most recent album, Potluck. It's fucking fantastic. He's popping up on a lot of people's records. Who else? Vel 9. Vel 9's fucking fantastic. Who else? That's one I don't want to miss. Marv One, my brother Marv One in Detroit. He's fantastic. Yeah, if any of y'all watching this want recommendations, hit me on IG, shoot me a DM.
You certainly name people that I want to look up. So, you keep doing what you do.
Word up.
What do you care about at this point?
Oh, man. I'm very empathetic. It's exhausting. I care about, it's funny because, I'm a very divisive person. I'm very aggressive with my speech. I don't mince words. I don't have time to beat around the bush. I cut right to it. So that leads to people either really fucking with me or really not fucking with me. And I'm fine with that. Kill all oppressors. You know what I mean? May their bombs return home. I care about children. I care about people who are not defended in this world. You know what I mean? I care about artists who are getting bent over and fucked daily by this industry. I care about my family. I care about my partner. You know what I mean? I care about art. I care about creativity.
I think the fact that you're adamant about originality, I think that makes people gravitate towards that.
Love and protection. People think I'm an asshole. No, like, it's funny. I get people hitting me up sometimes and like, man, Shoes don't give a fuck. And I'm like, you got it all wrong, homie. Like, Shoes gives all of the fucks. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be so adamant. I wouldn't be so passionate. Like, I care more than anybody. And honestly, it's fucking exhausting, but that's just the way I'm wired.
Well, I think it makes people believe your opinion,
Right.
right? You're not doing it for any other reason than you think it's true.
Yeah, I ran into DJ Khalil. Shout out to Khalil. I ran into him at NAM a few years ago, and he pulled me aside and he was like, "Shoes, don't get it fucked up. Like from the boardrooms to the studios to the streets, people know your fucking name. You got the best." DJ Khalil, a multi-platinum award-winning producer with an incredible resume, told me that I have the best ears in the game. I just came from watching Highest to Lowest a few days ago, new Spike Lee joint. And Denzel, that's kind of like Denzel's character. Like he's this hit maker and shit, and they call him Golden Ears and shit. It's crazy. It's an incredible movie. But yeah, it's just I navigate and I move through these spaces with integrity, man, and with the integrity of art in mind.
I've learned a lot from listening to you from afar, and I've learned a lot from you today. Appreciate your time, brother. Thanks for coming on the show.
No doubt, brother.
All right.
You
Peace.
got it. Peace, peace.